Good afternoon, welcome. It's 4 o'clock, it's Monday. I'm Rachel, this is Freya, and today we are making savoury muffins with cheese and ham in them. But basically you can use this recipe and you can adapt it to put any filling or flavouring in that you fancy. So basic ingredients for the muffins, or ingredients for the muffins we're making today. You need 275 grams of plain or self-raising flour. If you're using plain flour, you need baking powder. If you're using, if you're using plain flour, you need baking powder. You need caster sugar. You need mature cheddar cheese, cooked ham, sun-dried tomatoes in oil, which are optional, so if you couldn't get those, don't worry. A courgette, which I've also said is optional. 2 tablespoons of chives, 2 medium eggs. Chives just come out of the garden.
One of ours had a feather on it.
Yeah, and 200 millilitres of buttermilk or milk, and then some sunflower oil, which I've just realised I haven't got. So while I'm running off and getting the sunflower oil, which I meant to get out of the cupboard, Freya is going to take you through the equipment list, and then I will be back. Sorry, everybody.
You need a muffin tray, muffin cases, 2 mixing bowls, a sieve, measuring spoons, a grater, scissors, chopping board, 2 spoons, whisk, and a cooking rack.
And then we can start making them. All right. So first thing to do is to grab your muffin tin, like this, and grab your paper cases and just fill your muffin tin with the paper cases. And then that means our tin is all ready to go. So once we've made the mix, we can just pop it in. It's perfect. Okay. So obviously if you didn't want 12 muffins, you could just halve the quantities of everything today and that would give you 6. But 12 is a good quantity. Ooh, here comes my other assistant chef on the back. You're turning rosy. Thank you, darling. Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, so get all of those cases into your tin. Okay, nearly there. One more. So, right, come on then, chop, chop. Good girl. All right, and then pop your muffin tin out of the way. You don't need that for now. And now we're going to start to prepare our muffins. So first thing we're going to do is get all our dry ingredients together. So grab a mixing bowl, just put ours to the side, and then grab your weighing scales. And you want to weigh out 275 grams of flour. Now, if you're using self-raising flour, you need a spoon for this. You won't have to put any raising. Do you want to measure it out? You won't have to put any raising agent because it's already in there. But if you're using plain flour, we'll also be adding some baking powder to this. You could also make these if you wanted to with a gluten-free flour. Yeah, gluten-free flour. Or what else could we use? Maybe a buckwheat, although they'd be a bit denser if you did that. So plain or self-raising are the best things to use. Keep going then. So it's quite a lot of flour. So 275 grams.
I went to exactly 200.
Okay, keep going. Whoops. Oh, slightly over. Whoop. Bit tap. Something must have been leaning on it. We've gone right down now. Right, put some more back in. Scales have done something funny. Okay, nearly there. 10 more grams. That'll be too much. That's it. Oh, you'll find the more you cook, the more you'll get used to seeing and working out how much you're going to need to add to things. Leave that there for 1 second, darling. Right, then put our flour out of our way. If you're using plain flour, you need, yeah, that's what I was just checking. I thought I'd written it down, but I haven't. You need a tablespoon of baking powder, which feels like a lot, but this is what's going to make them puff up. And a tablespoon is a flat measure in your measuring spoon, okay? Not a What's the word? Heat. Every time I forget. Heat teaspoon, because that's going to be like putting 2 in. So 1 tablespoon of baking powder into your plain flour. If you've got self-raising flour, don't add any baking powder. All right, perfect. So you've got those 2 things there. Grab your mixing bowl with your sieve and put your flour into your sieve. Can you manage to hold the sieve? And then just sieve your flour and baking powder through into your mixing bowl. Lovely. And this will just make them a little bit lighter. If you've not got a sieve handy, don't worry, you don't have to sieve it, but it is a good idea if you can. Perfect. Okay. A little bit more. All right, let's pop our sieve out of our way. So we're done with that. And now you can put your mixing bowl to one side. So now what we're going to do is prepare all the flavourings that are going to go into the muffins. So take your chopping board and you'll need your scales again. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to chop our ham. So if you're using ham, you need 125 grams of cooked ham. So this can be any ham you like. So we're just using honey roast ham. So let's weigh ours out. It's your favourite, isn't it? Which is why we're using it. Put that on. So that's gone slightly over, but that's okay. We're going to use that. But you can use, if you want to, you can use continental ham, so like a prosciutto or a parma ham or something like that, or a knife. You could even use bacon if you wanted to. So it's entirely up to you. Now,
sorry, it smells a bit like.
That's because it's meat. So what we want to do now is chop our ham up. And we want to, yeah, you can absolutely, once I've explained. We want to chop it into fairly small pieces because obviously the muffins aren't that big. So first thing I would do, if you've got flat ham like ours, is cut along the length of it. And that's probably about 1/2 centimetre. Okay, if you've got, wait, I've got both. If you've got the ruffled up wafer ham, then you would do the same kind of thing. You'd cut one way and then you'd cut the other. So first thing to do, whatever kind of ham you've got, cut strips or cut across one way to start yourself off. And then we will cut it the other way in a minute. But try and not make your slices too thick, because we don't want huge bits of ham in the muffins. We want it all to mix nicely through the batter. Oh my goodness, my brain. Do you think it's having a 3-day weekend? Stop my brain working. Although I was working at the weekend, so I don't know. Maybe that's the problem. Okay, so we'll chop that ham up. I'm just checking what we're going to do. That's fine.
Is that about 3 grams? Then
when you've got when you've got your strips like this, you can just gather them together. See, so I've got them in a little mound there together, and then just cut across the other way. And you just want to create small pieces of ham. So just do that the other way on your ham.
I'm coming!
Okay. There we go. And you'll find by doing it in piles, it sort of does lump together a little bit. But what we'll do is you take your other mixing bowl and you put your ham in, just do a little bit of a sprinkling technique, like you're rubbing butter into flour, and that will help to separate the bits off a little bit. So Freya's just going to do our other pile of ham here. So we're going to do exactly the same thing with this ham, which is in a sort of pile. We're going to cut one way. That's it. Minding fingers, obviously, when we're using a knife. And then we're going to turn it around. It's a bit tricky with this one. And we'll cut the other way. The other thing you can do, which I should have said at the beginning, is you can, if you don't want to use a knife and you're a bit worried, you can snip it with scissors. But I think it's slightly easier with a knife. That looks lovely, darling. Well done. So it's quite a lot of ham. So you can see already from what we're putting in these, they're going to be quite filling. But that's great because that's a perfect little snack, isn't it, in between your lessons. All right, so let's put our ham in our mixing bowl. So keep going with your ham. Freya, I think, is sneaking off and feeding some to the dog. She's very naughty. All right. Wouldn't do that, no. All right, so that's our ham in there. Next thing we're going to put into this bowl is our cheese. So our cheese quantity is 125 grams of mature cheese. So again, take your weighing scales. We'll just use that as our base on our scales.
Wow, that's
All right, let's see what we've got there on that block. So that's 60. So I think if we cut the same again, we should be, so best thing to do, if you've got a big block of cheese like us, is cut a lump off, weigh that. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, 125, that's close enough. So cut a piece off, weigh it, and then it'll give you an idea of how much you've got. So we had 60, so we just cut the same size again, and that's got us up to 120 grams. All right, so what we will do now is grab our grater. You can grate it, yeah. And then we're going to grate our cheese. So grate on the larger side of your box grater. It's because it's quite a mature cheddar, that's why it's a bit softer. All right, so grate your cheese. Now, if you haven't got cheddar and you've got something like Emmental, you can add that in. You can, yeah. You can even do a mixture. You could do these with blue cheese if you wanted to. I mean, you can put pretty much any cheese in. You could even, if you wanted to, if you wanted a stronger cheese flavour, you could substitute some of the cheddar cheese for some Parmesan cheese, and that gives you a different flavour. You could have mozzarella, but mozzarella doesn't have much flavour. So that's the only reason I wouldn't suggest mozzarella, because you want the cheese flavour to come through in these. Okay, so far then, we have sieved our flour and baking powder in one bowl. In our other bowl, we put our cut ham, and we're now grating our cheese, which is going to go into that bowl. Yeah, it's not very exciting so far, darling. We've just got some ham and we're grating some cheese. You can say hello. This is Oliver, who is my other assistant chef. So you cook on other days, don't you?
I'm going to wait for everyone.
Ollie's now going to wait for everyone on Instagram. Keep waiting, darling. Oh, here comes the hand and the head. There we go. All right, so keep going with that cheese. What did you do then?
His head was in the
middle of Instagram. That's fine. Don't worry, buddy. Okay, shall I do a little bit? I'll do the end bit for you. It gets quite hard when you get to the end bit, doesn't it?
What does
You don't want to grate your fingers. We don't want to use that. Does slices, but we don't want slices today. We can experiment another day with that. This is always the best side for cheddar cheese. Is the big grating side. What does this side do? Which side? That's more for things like nutmeg and spices that you might need to grate.
Oh, that you don't make into powder.
Yeah, but I never use that side because I've got another grater for that. Right, okay, so keep going with that cheese, yeah?
It's a bit like this.
All right, so after you've done your cheese, pop that in with your ham. Hopefully you're all at a similar stage to us. You might be ahead of us, you might be slightly behind, but that is okay. Don't panic, because we're going to put some other things in. Chemicals on YouTube, right. All right, so we'll move our grater to one side. We don't need that for now. Right, next thing is your chives. So it's 2 tablespoons of chives. So the easiest way, chives are actually one of the easiest herbs to cut. Ours have just come out of a pot in the garden and they've got a few funny bits. So I'm just going to take those away. So chives are one of the easiest herbs to chop, I think, because you just hold them like this. Hang on a minute, we'll just do it with the normal scissors to start with. And then you just take your scissors and you just snip little pieces like that. You see? Little pieces. And just chop them onto your board. So you can see we've got quite a big bunch here, but we want 2 tablespoons, so we need quite a few. Okay, so you just carry on like that. And then once you get close to your hand, obviously you stop, you move your hand away, and then you carry on cutting. We've got some chive snippers that Freya's desperate to use, so she's going to use those. So chop your chives. So as I say, it's 2 tablespoons of chives, which is always a bit tricky with herbs when it's a tablespoon quantity, because it's much easier when it's like a handful. Or 30 grams, which is a whole pack. So what we'll do is we'll cut some, and then we'll just drop them onto the board. Darling? Mind your fingers, because they're sharp, those snippers. And then we can just scoop some up into a spoon and see if it's a tablespoon, which I'm going to do now with what we've got. So,
wait, I'll just get this out.
So the easiest way to do it is like this, down onto the board, and then they don't go everywhere. That's it. So when you're snipping, try and snip low to your board as well, and then your bits won't fly everywhere. If you end up with a few bits that are a bit longer, I won't worry, you can take them out, you can leave them in. So look, that bunch we did there is about a tablespoon. So we're going to pop those in, and then we're going to do the same again with another bunch. So it's actually quite a big handful of chives. If you didn't have chives, really don't worry about it. It does not matter at all. Right, Freya, get snipping with those. I mean, you could put other herbs in if you wanted to, or just no herbs at all. Down close to the ball, darling, that's it. The reason chives are good is they've got a slight onion flavour to them, so that's really nice to go with the cheese and ham, which is why we suggested chives. You could use a little bit of onion, yeah, it's just a bit more of a pain to cut up, isn't it? All right, so keep going with your chives. Get all of those chopped up beautifully. And then we will pop those in. So we are nearly there, aren't we? Right, next thing, if people are using them, will be the courgette. So we're going to put a little bit of courgette in now. You're dropping all the bits. Now, the reason I would say it's a good idea to use a bit of courgette is for all the parents out there, it's extra vegetables. Look at the face. It's extra vegetables going in the children. And also, courgette doesn't have a lot of flavour, so you're not really going to taste it. And the other brilliant thing about courgette, which is why people use courgette in cakes, is it adds moisture. Yes, you get courgette cake. It adds moisture to the mix without actually changing the flavour. So that's why courgette is a good idea. All right, I'm going to pop our chives in. Oh, knocking them everywhere. Nothing wrong with being a messy cook. Okay, so if you're using a courgette, if you're using a courgette, best way to prepare that is you cut off the stalk bit. Yeah, 1 second. And then I think ours is quite big, so I'm actually going to only put half the courgette in. So can you see it's about that much courgette? So just chop that. If yours is a similar size, chop it in half. You probably will only need about half. And then just grab your grater again and grate your courgettes. Lovely. So you can see there's so much going into these muffins. They're going to be really tasty and really filling. All right, next thing. So we are almost there with all these tasty fillings that are going in. Okay. And again, be careful with the grater, you don't grate your fingers when you get close to the end. If you're struggling to grate the last little bit, just discard it, put it to one side. Or if you've got a grown-up to hand, get them to do it. Let them risk grating their hands, but don't grate yours.
To hand?
Huh?
A grown-up to hand?
A grown-up to hand, which means a grown-up's nearby and it's handy. I'm to hand because I'm by you. Who knew you were going to learn new phrases today? Let me finish that off for you. Okay. Nearly there. So what other things could we put if we weren't going to do a cheese and ham muffin? What else could we put in them? You could do, you could have vegetable muffins. So you could put a bit of cheese and some sweet corn and some peas and peppers and things. That would be nice. What else? No, I'll just grate it. It's fine. So you can see we've got that funny little bit at the end. It actually is quite hard to grate that, so don't worry if you need to throw that away. Okay. Right. What you will find with grate, so if you press with your fingers flatly, carefully, you won't hurt them as much as if you're doing it with the ends of your fingers. All right. In goes the courgette. Wow, these are going to be really delicious. All right. So that is nearly everything. The last thing which I had as an optional ingredient, which I'll just show you in case anyone's got them, is the sun-dried tomatoes in oil. Oh, I'm getting a no to that as well. It's just tomato. I'm going to put half quantity in. So I suggested 7 go into these. Freya, can you stop making the funny noises? Do you know... There's a slight problem sometimes in this house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do 5. Where people think they're not going to like something and make silly noises. Then when they actually eat it, they quite like it. Right. Easiest way to chop these is it's definitely with the scissors. So take your tomato. You will get greasy fingers. Cut it in half. And then each half snip into little pieces. And you just want little pieces of these tomatoes because they're quite strong in flavour. And again, we want them to spread out throughout the whole muffin. So if you carry on with those, Freya, that would be brilliant. All right, so chop your sun-dried tomatoes. The reason I've suggested sun-dried tomatoes rather than fresh tomatoes is that obviously fresh tomatoes are wetter and you don't want to make your muffins too wet. So the sun-dried tomatoes have got a slightly more intense flavour and you haven't got all the liquid in them because obviously they've dried out a bit. So that's why they are better to use. And these ones, I think we just got, I've had these ages. I think I got them in Lidl actually. So they're available all over, aren't they? Right. If you haven't got them in oil and you've got the dried ones, that's okay. You can use those as well. Whatever you can get your hands on, really. And whatever you fancy putting in. So like I was saying, you can adapt these and leave out the things you don't like and put in extra things that you do like. All right, we're nearly there with our tomatoes. Perfect, one more to go. I've got a cloth here, Freya, you can dry your hands on.
I'll just
Wash your hands again, okay. All right, so perfect. All right, get rid of that. No scissors, they're a bit gooey now. And we'll just pop this in with the rest of our ingredients. Right, I'll put my chopping board to one side. Grab a spoon, a metal spoon, find whatever you've got to have, and just give all of that a nice mix together. You can, if you want to, add some salt and pepper. It's entirely up to you. I'm not going to, because I think there's quite a lot of flavour in here, and I try not to. There's a cloth. I try not to add too much salt to things for the children or for us, to be honest. Anyway, right, mix that together. Then grab your flour, tip all of your ham, cheese, vegetables, everything into your flour bowl. Perfect, just like that. Oh, I'll get it all out. Okay. And then just mix that together so that you're combining the flour with the other ingredients. Okay, so it should look like that. So you'll find that everything will end up coated in flour. All right, then we're just gonna, are you abandoning me? She's abandoning me. That's fine, you go. All right, I think that's a bit sun-dried tomatoes. Put your mixing bowl to one side, grab your mixing bowl that you had your cheese and everything in. We'll reuse that, no point in dirtying another bowl. So now what we're gonna do is measure into here. Yes, darling, here we go. Here's my other chef. Yeah, that's fine. We're gonna measure into here 200 mils of milk. In fact, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to get a measuring jug first, in case anything doesn't come out of the right quantity. So, oh, can you get all millilitres for us? There we go, down to 0. All right, so 200 millilitres of milk or buttermilk. So we're just using milk today because I used the buttermilk up on Friday for the soda bread. Now, if you wanted this to be buttermilk, what you can do is squeeze some lemon juice in. That's okay. And it sours the milk slightly and then it's more like buttermilk, but I'm just going to use milk today. Right, pop that into your mixing bowl over here. Okay, next thing we're going to measure out is 200, no, not 200, we've just done 290 millilitres of sunflower oil. If you haven't got sunflower oil, you can use a vegetable oil. At a push, you can use an olive oil, but olive oil's got quite a strong flavour, so I think it's better to use sunflower or vegetable. So 90 ml of oil. So actually, because we're using oil,
Oh, that's 91.
You could make these if you, even if you don't eat dairy, you would just have a dairy alternative cheese. And you would have, that's it, isn't it, the cheese? Yeah, because this is oil. And you'd have a dairy alternative to the milk. So add the oil to the milk. And then last thing we're going to do, we've got 2 lovely eggs here. We're just going to crack 1 egg into our jug, Ollie. Please? I know, is it funny? You see, if you put your oil in your milk, it goes really, you won't be able to see us properly, but it goes funny. The milk sort of made balls, hasn't it? So it doesn't mix very well. All right, so we're going to pop those in. Oh, that's 1 in. Good boy.
How doesn't it mix very well?
Bit of shell. Shall I use my spoon to get it out? You got it. Well done. So crack both your eggs into your jug. That's it. Got it. Yay, perfect. All the egg. Oh, Ollie's doing a bit of egg separating now. Pop it in now, though, darling, because everyone's waiting.
I wanted to pop it.
Okay. All right. Here you go. Give your hands a little wipe on the cloth. And then add that to your milk and oil, okay?
Oh, can I mix it?
Yeah, you can use the whisk. And give it a little whisk together so it's all combined.
No, it's not lumpy like it.
Okay. That's it. So it just needs a light whisk. That's lovely, darling. Should we show? So you can see now everything's mixed together. Oil, milk and eggs. And then last thing we're going to do is pour the wet ingredients in with the dry ingredients. All right, so let's put those in like that. And then we need to mix the whole thing together. Yes, please. So give it a good mix with the spoon. Now, when you make muffins, the trick is, for a nice muffin, is not to overmix it. So as soon as it starts to come together and you've not got any dry flour that's not mixed in, then we stop. Is it quite hard to mix? Is it quite stiff? Because we've got so much yummy filling in there. Now, in our bowl, can you just stop a second? I can see we've got flour at the bottom there that hasn't been mixed in. So it's important that you scoop up from the bottom of the bowl to make sure it all gets mixed. You want to do that, darling? So often you'll mix and you'll think, oh, that's all mixed. And then when you start to scoop it out, you'll find you've got flour at the bottom. So make sure you pick right up from the bottom of the bowl. That's it. Perfect. All right. Can we have a little look and check we've got all our flour mixed in? That looks great. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. Right, so next we need to grab our muffin tray that's got our muffin cases in it. And all we're going to do... All we're going to do is... Got another chef now. Is evenly spread the mix between the 12 cases. An amigo chef. So the best way to do that is to take a big spoonful, pop it into a case like that, and then carry on and put one big spoonful into each muffin case. So you probably want it to be about 2/3 full to start with. And then what you'll find is, the other way, good way to do it is to have the mix on one spoon and have another spoon just to push it into your muffin cases. Okay. And then what you'll do is you'll do that. So put some into each case, and then if you've got any spare...
458 grams.
Wow. He's been eating a lot.
All right, let's put them in then.
Hang on, darling. So I've lost my train of thought now. So put one spoonful into each case, and then if you've got any mix left afterwards, you can go around and top up and even up, because you will find that some may have a little bit more in than others. Wow, these look really good. There's so much delicious filling in these.
513 actually.
Do you know what? You could even, if the weather, it's brightened up here now, if the weather picks up again and it's like it was at the weekend, you'd even have these, because I'm saying these are for snacks, but you could have these for lunch. You could have a little picnic in the garden with some salad and some veggie sticks with these. Would be nice, wouldn't they? Okay? Easy peasy. Right. There we go. So look, I've filled all of mine, but I have got a couple that don't have quite as much in as the others. So with my spare bits of mix, I'm just going to go around and even them up, because you want them to try and get them to be as similar size to each other as possible, because otherwise, if you've got really big ones, they'll take longer to cook, and you've got really small ones, they'll end up potentially burning or drying out. And also, you don't want people fighting over who's getting the big one and who's getting the small one. I guarantee everyone will want to eat these. All right. So that is it, folks. You should end up with 12 cases like this with the mix in them. And then all we're going to do is pop those into the oven. So if you remember, we preheated our oven at the start. We put it onto 190 degrees centigrade, which is a fan-assisted oven of 170, or that is gas. That's right, because we're on a fan oven. That's gas mark 5. So you're going to pop those in for 20 to 25 minutes until they're golden. They'll puff up and they'll be golden. When you press them gently, they should feel quite firm, okay, but not too hard, and then they should be cooked. You can stick a little cocktail stick in the middle as well to see if they're cooked. If that comes out clean, then you know they're cooked in the middle. And that's it, really. I'm going to pop mine in the oven in a second. I'll pop pictures of the finished muffins up on Instagram so you can have a look if you're following on there. Thank you for joining. In a minute, yeah. Thank you for joining today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're here for the first time, you wonder what we're doing. These are our after-school cook-alongs, which we are currently doing 3 days a week at 4 p.m. You can get all of the ingredients list from me before the classes, or if you're watching this, you don't have the ingredients and you fancy giving it a go, then you can email me rachel@rachelpowerdesign.com and I can send you the ingredients and I can put you on my list for future cook-alongs. If you're watching this on YouTube and you would like to be notified of new videos coming out, then please subscribe to my channel, that's Style Design Create, or follow me on Instagram.
Or like it.
So you'll like it. Follow me on Instagram.
But don't not unlike it. Dun dun.
Third time lucky.
Dun dun dun.
Follow me on Instagram, Style Design Create, and then you'll be kept up to date with everything that's going on. Thanks so much.